I had the immense privilege of working for the head of growth of LinkedIn. His name is Elliot Schmuckler, and he had grown LinkedIn from 25 million members to, at that time, north of 250 million members. I remember in my first one-on-one with Elliot, I was like, please teach me, how does virality work? Like, what is the thing that makes LinkedIn go viral? Teach me everything you know about virality. And he said, well, Rahul, nothing goes viral, not at least in the way that you're thinking. Make something that people fall in love with. Make something that people can't help but talk about. Make something truly remarkable.
Welcome back to Talking Too Loud, the show that's serving the loudest takes on building businesses, top-notch products, and unforgettable brands. I'm Chris Savage, the co-founder and CEO of Wistia, and this week we're getting loud about building for delight.
Sounds delightful.
It will be delightful. That's the whole idea. Build for delight, make something delightful, have a delightful day.
Eat a Turkish delight.
Oh, a Turkish delight. Delight is something that we're thinking constantly about at Wistia. So today we're going to be talking about how we can create products that our customers don't just use, but they love. We're talking with someone who's been obsessed with building for delight since day one, Rahul Vohra, the founder and CEO of Superhuman. If you've ever used Superhuman, you know it's not just email. It's email that feels magical. We've talked about it here on the show. It's a product that I love and use. So we're very excited to have Rahul with us on the show today, not just to talk about delight, but actually also Superhuman was just acquired by Grammarly. Huge news. So I'm very excited to have Rahul on, especially because not only we're going to be talking about delight, but Superhuman was just acquired by Grammarly, and we are going to hear a bit about that process as well. Lots of exciting stuff going on in your world. I mean, I think we have to start with the big news, which is that you guys were just acquired by Grammarly. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, super exciting. We signed the definitive a week or two ago, and I think technically we are closing tomorrow. So you can imagine my day has been chasing signatures.
Oh my God.
Fun signatures to chase.
We appreciate you fitting this in. I know when you thought like you're selling to Grammarly, the first thing you wanted to do was like get on Talking Too Loud. So we're excited to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about, especially for people who don't know, like why Grammarly and why did that make it such a great home for you all at Superhuman?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those that don't know, Superhuman is the most productive email app ever made. Our customers get through their inbox twice as fast as before. They respond to messages 1 to 2 days faster, and they save 4 hours or more every single week. We're also reinventing the future of productivity with AI. Imagine, for example, waking up to an inbox where every email already had a draft reply. You would simply edit and then send. And sometimes you wouldn't even need to edit. So the Grammarly acquisition, I met Shishir, the CEO, many, many years ago, back in 2017. And back then, he wasn't the CEO of Grammarly. He was the co-founder and CEO of a company called Coda. And we were at a conference. It was one of those special moments when nobody else was around. We could get into some really deep conversation. And this was the Lobby Enterprise Conference. It takes place out in Hawaii. David Cornick and team do an amazing job. So shout out to them for throwing this incredible conference. And there's a small lesson here, actually, because I didn't want to attend the conference. In 2017, we were just a handful of people. I felt like, which may sound weird for a conference that takes place in Hawaii. I felt like, if I left the office, stuff would slow down.
Yeah.
But my co-founder, Vivek, he's one of the best networkers I know. And he was very keen on the idea. And he's right that, who you know is just as important as what you make. And so he kind of pushed me out the door, bought me a plane ticket. I turned up to this conference. And Shishir and I are the only two people there. We were either late or early. I don't remember exactly which. But it was just the two of us, like two productivity nerds nerding out about productivity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? No one else around. We both had margaritas. And we're just like, we hadn't met before, so we're just telling each other what was, what we were working on. And it turns out that he worked on Microsoft Outlook as a software developer back when he was at Microsoft. So he had this predisposition to be fascinated in Superhuman. I show him what we're building. And as you probably know, back then we were only doing one-on-one VIP concierge onboardings. So I onboarded him right there and then, took his credit card and everything right by the pool. And as those who've done the onboardings know, you would have gone through an onboarding. one of the very last steps is when we ask people to close their Gmail tab. And so I was asking him to close Gmail, he's moving the mouse over, and then another tab catches my eye, and it's an app called Krypton. So I ask him, what is that? And Shishir then proceeds to give me the best product demo I've seen in years. This thing is a document, but it's also a spreadsheet. It's also a database. It's a collaboration tool. It's a mini app builder. And then, of course, Krypton, over the years, renamed to become Coda. And late last year, it was acquired by Grammarly. Now, in the acquisition announcement, Shishir wrote something like, as I watched the foundational capabilities of AI change just about how every tool in Surface operates, I started drafting my 2025 planning memo for the team. I titled it the AI Native Productivity Suite. And my jaw dropped, because at Superhuman, our vision has always been to build the AI native productivity suite of choice. And email is a critical part of that, obviously. Email is a much bigger problem, perhaps less obviously than most people realize. There are roughly 1 billion professionals in the world, and on average, we spend 3 hours a day in email. That's 3 billion hours every day, or north of 1 trillion hours every single year. In fact, we spend more time in email than we do any other work app. So as soon as the acquisition was announced, I texted Shishir, we caught up, and over several conversations, it became very clear that we share the same vision, which is to build the AI native productivity suite of choice.
Well, that's amazing.
What an origin story.
Yeah, I loved going to the conference. They're like, no one else is there. Great conference, though.
Very valuable conference, turns out.
That is awesome. Okay, well, look, I'm excited to see what you guys do together. I'm also a Grammarly customer, so it'll be fun to see where things go there. What I love about this news is that it lines up with what you've been doing since day one. I mean, turning everyday work into something that people actually enjoy. Can you tell us about the beginning of Superhuman? How did you guys get started?
Sure, absolutely. So the idea for Superhuman came a while ago, actually came in the wake of selling my last company, Reportive, to LinkedIn. For those that don't remember, it was a while ago. Reportive was the first Gmail browser extension to scale to millions of users. Essentially on the right-hand side of Gmail, we showed you what people look like, where they work, their recent tweets, links to their social profiles. We'd somehow amassed most of LinkedIn's daily active users onto one app, which had I known, I would have sold it for a lot more money. But nevertheless, we ended up selling that to LinkedIn. It worked out great. And LinkedIn at the time was based in Mountain View. I lived in San Francisco. And so my commute, for those who haven't had the dubious pleasure of that particular drive, is about an hour. And this was back in 2014 when Uber and Lyft were having their heyday. So I was actually in the back of an Uber traveling from Mountain View to San Francisco. And on this drive, I had this incredible realization about the magic of Uber. On this drive, I got through my email, I cleared my calendar for tomorrow, I finished a product document, I called a restaurant and I made reservations for dinner with my partner. I even called my mother. So I was simultaneously being a productive employee, a proactive partner, a present son. And I realized the magic of Uber was not about transportation. It wasn't about getting from A to B. It was about time, getting back time to do all of these other things. So I started to look at, where do we spend all of our time? Where do we professionals actually spend our time? And as I mentioned, there's 1 billion professionals in the world. On average, it's 3 billion hours a day, or north of 1 trillion hours a year. In fact, there is no other work app where we spend more time. And there I was, having just sold an email company to LinkedIn with this realization. I thought, wow, I'm in the best possible position to take on this unfathomably large problem. So we set out to build the fastest email experience ever made. And today, folks are getting through, as I said, their inbox twice as fast as before. They're replying way sooner. They're saving 4 hours or more every single week. So that's where the idea came from. Then there was this whole journey of getting to product market fit.
I mean, I remember fondly that talk you gave at Business of Software about this exact concept of the product market fit engine. And I think that for people who haven't heard it, someone who started a business, they're trying to figure this out. It's like a very helpful methodology.
Yeah, so the product market fit engine is this thing that we came up with at Superhuman. I think it's the most shared entrepreneurship article of all time now, which is kind of crazy. Beats even Mark Andreessen's original product market fit post.
There you go.
What we did was we came up with an algorithmic way to take a product that is intended to be high growth and venture backed and iterate it towards product market fit. And it will even generate the roadmap for you. Like, it will literally tell you what to build, which I think is kind of incredible. And
that's amazing.
It's the reason why it went so viral. So the basic idea here is you can actually measure product market fit. And if you can measure it, you can optimize that metric. You can numerically, systematically increase that metric. And then you can figure out what series of actions will it take to push that metric up. And it's all based on this question that you can ask your users, which is, how would you feel if you could no longer use the product? Now, I did not come up with that question. That question was invented by Sean Ellis. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he's also the person who invented the term growth hacker. He ran growth at Dropbox and LogMeIn and Eventbrite. And what he found was that this question is a leading indicator. It is a question where you give people 3 responses: not disappointed, somewhat disappointed, and very disappointed. Very disappointed means, oh, I'd be super bummed if this app were to go away. I really love your app. Not disappointed is I couldn't care less. And what he found was, if you had 40% or more people say they'd be very disappointed without your app, then you almost certainly have product market fit and you will grow the most easily. But if you had less than 40%, you would almost always struggle to grow. So it's a leading indicator, it's benchmarked, it's predictive, it's more predictive than things like Net Promoter Score. And it was the kernel around which we built this product market fit engine. Now, there's a series of questions you can ask around that core question to figure out who the highest expectation customer is. That's the type of customer who has the highest demands from your product, and crucially, who others will look up to and aspire to be like. You can figure out what the main benefit of your product is, and that will help you figure out what feedback to listen to and what feedback to politely ignore or disregard. And that may sound counterintuitive, but I mean, you know this, I know this, we all know this. You can't build every single request you get. And if you do, not only do you not have resources to do it, you'll just end up with this muddied, confused product that lacks vision and is unstrategic and not very well positioned. So the question then becomes, how do you figure out who to listen to, and how do you dial between your own vision and the feedback that you're receiving from the market? And the product market fit engine actually answers all of those things by helping you figure out what the main benefit of the product is, who to listen to and who not to listen to. And the core insight there is, there's a set of people who are kind of on the fence about loving your product for the right reasons. And you can isolate exactly who those people are, and then you can figure out what exactly they need, and you can start to increase the set of people who'd be very disappointed without your product, who also love it for the right reasons. So there's a lot. I've written a 5,000-word essay on how to do this. It's called the Product Market Fit Engine, and everyone should read it. It's super helpful.
The piece that you're just digging into there around really zeroing in on the feedback you're actually going to listen to and the feedback you're going to ignore is almost like, I feel like for someone who's just started something, is like an impossible thing to even imagine. Just like, hey, I'm making this product. I really hope anyone will use it.
Right.
And now some people are using it, and now actually you're going to ignore the feedback politely of some of the people who are not going to be a good fit, who they're probably not going to be a happy customer over the long term, basically. And then the people who actually are going to be a really happy customer, who are going to be really delighted. And that focus, I feel like, is such the key piece of the puzzle, right? Like, if you can figure out who those right people are, which feedback to listen to, your job gets much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about delight. Let's do it. Because that's one of the things I believe, is that in this world we're in today, like, having the products that truly delight, that go beyond just solving the problem, but help you do things you couldn't do otherwise, give you superpowers, like, are even fun to use when you're using them, are going to do better. They're going to be much more successful, more likely to be shared. There's going to be more word of mouth.
Yeah, I think I've told this story before, but it's such a powerful one. I think it's worth telling again. So I had the immense privilege of working for the head of growth of LinkedIn. His name is Elliot Schmuckler, and he had grown LinkedIn from 25 million members to, at that time, north of 250 million members. And I was so excited about this. People make fun of LinkedIn's brand, but it's easy to forget. And especially at the time, one of the truly breakout viral success stories of the consumer internet, right? You had PayPal back in the day for its initial virality, and then Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, and those were the big ones. And so I remember in my first one-on-one with Elliot, I was like, hey, Elliot, at some point I want to start a new company. Please teach me, how does virality work? Like, what is the thing that makes LinkedIn go viral? Teach me everything you know about virality. And he said, well, Rahul, nothing goes viral, not at least in the way that you're thinking. And I said, well, what do you mean? Like you make viral features and you have viral factors. And if it's more than one, the thing kind of, shoots off to infinity. And he's like, well, that's exactly the problem. Even Facebook in its heyday did not have a viral factor of greater than 1. I said, well, what was it? He said it was 0.7. And even then that only lasted for about a year. And I said, well, what about LinkedIn? And he said, well, our most viral feature, which is the address book import. I don't know if this thing still exists today, but back then you could basically import and it would spam everyone in your address book saying, hey, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. By the way, incredible idea. Whoever came up with that idea, phenomenal idea. I think it was maybe Sean Parker in his contact address book thing. I forget the name, but it predated LinkedIn. Even that had a lifetime viral factor of only 0.4. So 0.4 is considered amazing. Most viral features that you can come up with are going to be in the 0.2 to 0.3 range. We see that at Superhuman with the viral signature, which, by the way, even today still accounts for 20 to 40% of all of our site traffic. So
that's amazing.
Signatures, they're great. Always use signatures. So she said this to me, and then, I was young, putto on me, I was confused. I was like, well, then how does it work? How do brands go viral? And he said, well, that's the key word. They're a brand. Every single massive consumer internet story you can think of has real world word of mouth that you can't measure in a feature. Yes, the indexes or the viral factor is greater than 1, but it's not any one feature then that gives you that. And even if you add up all the features, you don't get to 1. It's the real world word of mouth that is creating that. So I said, well, how do you make that? And he said, well, that's the thing that you're really good at. Just make something that people fall in love with. Make something that people can't help but talk about. Make something truly remarkable. And so that set of ideas actually worked its way into the values for Superhuman. We have 3 values. Number 1 is create delight. Number 2 is remarkable quality. And number 3 is embrace the extraordinary. And the reason I put these as values is, well, what's the lesson? What did Elliot teach me? Elliot said it kind of like you can't hack your way to growth. You genuinely have to make something that people love and which they will virally remark upon. And so then I was like, well, how do I do that? I won't be able to control every decision, every single thing forever. I have to make it a value. And that has then turned its way and manifested itself as company rituals. For example, we have a ritual every Friday afternoon. We do a thing called Friday Wins, get the company together for half an hour to talk about all the amazing stuff that has happened that week. That by itself is not a new idea. I think many companies do that. We took that out of one of Kim Scott's books. But the thing that we do that is unique is the very last 10 minutes of that meeting is us celebrating public praise for Superhuman. And we usually do Twitter, but nowadays we do Twitter and G2 and LinkedIn posts or wherever it's happening. But initially it was me, and now we round robin it through various folks in the company, would stand up in front of the company and read out viral tweets where people are saying incredible things about Superhuman. And you know what happens if the core piece of your company celebration every Friday is to read out the moments where people are virally and publicly praising your product, is you start rewarding behavior that creates that kind of experience in every single function across the company. So that's hopefully very useful, but a long way of saying how I figured out how virality works, how it boils down to delight and remarkable quality. And by the way, we literally mean that, like quality that is so remarkable that people literally remark upon it to other people, and then how you can inculcate that as company values.
That's awesome. I love that specific example of because obviously that is going to change the culture, right? Like it's just very simple. People see that they want to be creating moments that actually others remark upon. And it's so simple and so powerful when it's done. That's very cool. We talk a lot about remarkability as well, in terms of like remarkability in the product, remarkability in this experience, and remarkability in the brand. And when people, what does that mean? It's like, it means that they would remark on it. That means it's so good that they're going to actually talk about it. And to be that good is hard. It takes a lot of work. I'm curious, do you have other rituals around this?
Around remarkability specifically?
Yeah, just like that you use as part of this engine for people listening at home, like things that they might be able to take away thinking like, hey, I want to do this too.
Yeah, I think that's the main ritual. I think the idea, I actually first came across it. It was a Seth Godin book, one of his earlier ones. I think it's called Purple Cow.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah, it's a fast read. I mean, he's an incredible writer. It's very entertaining as well. But the core idea is like, would you remark upon a cow if you drove by a field? No, you wouldn't. But if that cow was purple, would you remark on it? I mean, absolutely yes. Of course. There's something there, and like that's not even a good product. It's just different. And so the added twist, which I applied from Elliot's advice, was it has to be different. But also delightful. Like you ultimately want people to have these positive feelings associated with it. And then I combined it with Sean Ellis's advice, and you can building a company is such an art of sort of combining all of these ideas. But if folks are looking to go deeper on it, I'd recommend Purple Cow.
That's a great rec. As you're talking, it also makes me think about a lot of the marketing of Superhuman is from your voice in email. Yep. Like writing an email coming from you, talking about the details of why you're building what you're building, how much time it's going to save. In a way, I wonder too, if that's like another element that people know, like Rahul is going to be writing this. Everyone's going to see it. Like he's stamping his name on it. It's very public. Like you're going to get the replies directly. I know because over the years, there's been times when I've replied to you directly about things that came out in Superhuman. It may not even seem like a ritual, but to me, it actually kind of does. It does seem a bit like, hey, this is another way that anything that's launched, the feedback is going directly to you. And people know that it's like, it ups the ante on the quality. I don't know. Do you agree with that, or am I just making stuff up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I take it so for granted. I didn't even think of it. But yes, every single product marketing email, every new launch comes from me. All the replies go back to me. It's way too many now, so the team helps me with that. But anyone who has pointed or specific feedback, or where there's obviously some kind of pre-existing relationship, gets in front of me. I reply to all of those, and I just think it's there's a number of lessons in that. I think it was important to me, and I think lots of founders, to say that we believe in this product so much, to the extent that I'm going to personally put my name on this. Like the day when I stop putting my name on whatever it is we're launching, that is going to be the day which, for whatever reason, I'm no longer at Superhuman. Like there isn't going to be a day where I pull back from that and I just start allowing the company to do, generic, anonymous product launches. Because there's something special about saying, we built this and it's amazing, signed, yours truly, I'm putting my name on this. Yeah. And if you don't agree with me, I encourage that conversation. Please tell us how we can do better. Like, how many companies do that? But yet, as a startup, you are uniquely placed to do that. We all respond better to people as opposed to anonymous corporations. So I don't know why more of us aren't doing that.
Well, you clearly defended it, though, as you got bigger. I mean, that's what I think is interesting, is like a lot of startups do this at first because they have to. Then they stop doing it. And somewhere in there,
and I don't know why they stopped doing it. I can imagine, because I've sat in, Superhuman's 11 years old. Wistia's even older, I think, right? Like 14, 15 years old.
19.
So, wow. Props to you. Okay, so I mean, you would have been in conversations, I'm sure, where there's talk about streamlining and automating and making things more efficient. Yeah. And those things are all very important, but they can all also come at the cost of what it is that lets a startup succeed and win.
Something that occurred to me while you were talking about that, the very personal product launches that are coming from you, they seem very human, right? And so I'm wondering, going back to the beginning, you're making an AI native product platform. How do you figure out what stays human and what gets that AI lift?
I think the entirety of our product marketing voice is very human. And so much so that we've we've never really thought about it. I think there have been, I know we want to talk about what goes right when thinking about, my mind automatically goes to things that have gone wrong. Like, for example, the way that like Google can write your ad copy for you. We've all seen this, and you look at some of those ads and you're like, oh my God, no one would have written that. That's just obviously bad. Stop, pull that ad back, start again. Let's get some more oversight going on here. So those are the very few cases I can think where the voice wasn't human. But in every other case, I mean, if it's product marketing copy, I don't write the first drafts anymore. I haven't for a long time, but every single word I've edited.
Yeah, that's big.
That's huge.
It was very interesting watching the moment of transition when LLM started to deliver. People were really excited, and everyone's like, where's the stuff in Superhuman? Where is it? And I saw you being like, hey, it's coming. We just want to actually do it right. We want to do it right. You kept saying that. And now it has been done right. Like it's wild. Like I use the AI labeling, auto skipping inbox, like auto replies, like all this stuff. And I honestly spent so little time in my email now. It's unbelievable. But that transition, I think, would be very interesting because a lot of companies are still trying to figure this out. Like their attempts in AI are pretty minimal, or they're afraid, or is it not ready? Could you just walk us through like your approach to this? Because now it's easy when it's delivering to understand it. It's easy to imagine like a brand new AI native product, but you've essentially taken a product and made it AI native. So how did that work?
Yeah. I mean, it was hard, scary, even terrifying early. So end of 2022, I, like you, I'm sure, we're reading the tea leaves, we're getting a lot of text messages from people. The board is starting to say, hey, are you thinking about this? That kind of question. And like, if I can be vulnerable, like I wasn't ready. Like I was underprepared. I was so focused on other CEO things, like scaling the go-to-market engine and fixing the challenges that we had in EPD and like all of these other things, that I wasn't spending at that time on the frontier of AI, figuring out what could happen. And we had every opportunity. A year or two before that, folks from OpenAI actually had come to the Superhuman office. We were just down the road, showed us what they were building. This is around GPT-2, saying, hey, we really think you should integrate this. And me and Conrad, the CTO at the time, we looked and we were just like, this seems amazing, but it's not ready. Like we can't connect the dots quite yet, which I think was still the right decision because it didn't work particularly well at that time. It didn't actually work well enough until around GPT 3.5. So fast forward to the end of 2022, it's kind of scary. I don't really know what to do. Fortunately, I was in the process of hiring a president, and I'd closed the president at the end of 2022. The first week was early 2023. And basically, as soon as the president started, I was like, okay, we're going to overlap for like 4 weeks. But as soon as you're ramped, I'm going to duck out and focus entirely on AI. And if we don't, we're screwed, right? This is an existential shift. This is just, we need to, basically the process we need to go through is ask ourselves the question, what would Superhuman look like if we built it from scratch today? Because that is what we're going to be up against. And it needs founder level energy, and it needs the moral authority to say, everything we've done, it's all wrong. Just, start again, no sacred cows, no sunk cost fallacy. It is just, let's build this thing again. And I knew that no one else in the organization would have had the moral authority quite like the founder to be able to do so. So the timing worked out. I passed operationally running the company to the president for a period of time when I went all in on AI. It's not dissimilar to learning any new skill or topic or being at university or whatever. I just started to immerse myself in it day after day. I went to all the dinners I could go to. I spoke to all the experts. I read everything I could find, all of that good stuff. And then over time, I still feel imposter syndrome, but just sort of over time got better and better and better until I felt like I could direct the AI strategy for the company. And it became pretty clear that the evolution of AI was going to happen in 3 distinct phases: on demand, always on, and then the phase that we're basically in now, agentic. And so in phase one, we saw and built features that were on demand. Now, these I define as features you have to remember to use. And an example from Superhuman would be Write with AI. Like you mentioned this, you just jot down a few words and we'll turn it into a fully written email. And unlike Gemini, unlike Copilot and Superhuman, we match the voice and tone in the emails you've already sent. So the emails actually genuinely sound like you do. And this really does work. Like since the start of 2024, the percentage of emails that our users have written with AI has grown by a factor of more than 5. Now, these on-demand features are a really easy place to start. Since they're only running when they are used, you don't need gigantic infrastructure to make them work. They don't cost very much to run. It's basically write some prompts, figure out how the APIs work, make a little bit of infrastructure. The hard part is figuring out the user interface and the user experience. I think the industry is still figuring out how writing assistants should look and feel and be integrated into applications. And we have a very big change to that coming out in the next few months. So stay tuned on that front. But then we thought that phase 2 would be AI features that are always on. So these are features you don't have to remember to use. And examples from Superhuman would be things like auto summarize and instant reply. And more recently, things that you mentioned like auto drafts and auto labels and auto reminders. And these always on features are a lot harder to build because even if the user isn't engaging directly with them, they still require a pretty big build out of infrastructure and they cost real money to run because they're always on, they're always working for you. Like with those features I just mentioned, we've already processed many billions of emails.
Yeah, that's when it goes from like kind of cheap to very expensive. And we really need to be delivering value.
Yeah, exactly. But then you can do things like Superhuman has done, we've all done. There is a pretty reasonable pricing and packaging exercise you can go through as you're implementing AI, which is some of these things cost real money. The things I just listed cost real money. That is a very good way to or reason to revisit your pricing and just say, well, okay, you've got the basic version of the product here, and then you've got like the more advanced version of the product here with the AI things that actually have a real cost basis. And we know that the cost of LLMs is dropping by a factor of 10 or so every year. And so we can move functionality down into the lower tiers, which is, I think, ultimately what every founder wants. Ultimately, we just want as many people to have the thing, right? So that's what I want. If we can't afford to do that today, that's fine. Stick it in the more expensive plan and move it down next year. And so we're in that flow and that cycle right now. And then phase 3 is building AI agents that replace entire parts of workflows. Imagine an email agent that triages on your behalf, that schedules on your behalf, and that writes and even sends, if you want, fully written emails on your behalf. That kind of an agent can reason, it can problem solve, it can plan, it can create subtasks, it can incorporate deep context about who you are, it can resolve ambiguity, it can ask you questions, it can gather information, it can interact with other agents. For example, your email agent may interact with your calendar agent to get meetings onto your calendar, and your calendar agent would know about your meeting preferences. It would know, for example, that you prefer to review work in the morning or take meetings in the afternoons, and that maybe your favorite place to take meetings is the Blue Bottle down the road. And I think we'll actually all also have a task agent that automatically tracks what you've committed to other people, what other people have committed to you. It can then remind you when you're falling behind on important things, and it can remind you to follow up with other people. And then we'll all also have agents that not only join our meetings like they do today, but just sort of generically are next to us when we work and that take notes for us about our work. And then you can imagine your task agent communicating with your note agent to track all the action items, and your email agent communicating with your note agent to write a follow-up email in your own voice and tone. It's going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting because like Sylvie asked this question before of what should the AI do versus the human. And what it's been making me think about is like my glimpse of that today. I think if you looked at my email, you would see Chris doesn't end up with that much email anymore. Few of the emails have pre-written responses, and I go through and I edit them and I send them, or I do a couple reminders, and then I spend real time on the things that really matter. And so, but before this, up until extremely recently, like up until you guys built these features, a big part of my job was managing and triaging email, right? And like making sure that the important things were getting through. And so now that I feel confident in that piece, you start doing that in all these other pieces. So I think the world you're describing is like, it's on the one part like kind of wild to think about like all these agents. On the other part, it's really just saying, hey, we have all this automation. It's like everybody has a bunch of people working for them, and your time is now spent on the most impactful things that deserve your time.
Absolutely.
I can't get over it. It's like really mind-blowing what you were describing about the notes agent talking to the calendar agent, and it seems like I can't even fathom having that much time back.
People are predicting tremendous amounts of time back. The increase, we ran a survey of, we do surveys every year, and then the last survey we did on AI and productivity, at the base level, folks are expecting to be 3 times more productive in a 5-year time span. But the highest performing companies, those who are furthest along the curve of using products like Superhuman, Cursor, and so forth, they're actually expecting a 10x increase in productivity. So we're just scratching the surface today.
Wow.
Yeah, it is very interesting because it's like we are scratching the surface, and there are places where this stuff delivers so incredibly well, and there's places right next to it where it doesn't deliver at all yet. And so it is going to be this process, I think, of like every year there's going to be another thing that you can automate, another thing that it does better, another thing that saves you time. And I do think for people who are afraid of this, I would definitely encourage you to try to learn now, because like it's going to take you want to compound these benefits and this productivity enhancement, because it ultimately is giving you more time to do the most creative things, the most human things, the most differentiated things. But if everyone around you is getting massive productivity gains and you're not, you're in for some interesting experiences. We'll probably cut that part, by the way, because it's too negative. I'm just thinking about my AI doomers out there,
Yeah. I mean, I don't worry about, the stuff I worry, we can cut this whole section, but the stuff I'm actually more worried about is what it does to cognitive ability. Like I was reading some research papers yesterday where folks who are delegating more to assistants like ChatGPT have much lower rate of neurons firing about the tasks they're doing. And yes, you could argue that frees us up to be higher level about things, but it also just exercises the brain less. And is that a good thing? I'm not sure.
I think it's a very interesting question. It seems like it's not a good thing if it's ultimately exercising the brain less, because you think about like my dad retired when he was like 80. He's a professor. He's still working, and he wants to stay sharp, and he likes staying sharp, and he knows that when he's not doing research, he's not writing things, he's not talking to other people, it's just harder. And when you're doing it, it's much easier. It's like it's easier once you get in shape to stay in shape, right, than to fall out of shape and try to get back into it. And so it does seem like a very real concern. And there's also these amazing examples of like that tutoring data, right, where there's students who can advance unbelievably quickly when they have like a totally customized tutor giving them feedback every single day, because every student has a tutor who knows exactly where they are on a certain skill set so they can ask the exact right question to push them in their learning. And so that's like amazing.
Yeah, that's the strongest counterexample, I think, which is, I think I know the school you're referring to, that there's one that Austin Allred is part of in Texas, and they achieving nationally top 2% level results with 2 hours of tuition a day. And I was just thinking, man, I wish I had 2 hours of tuition a day when I was a kid. I would have done so much more and experienced so much more of what you can as a child. But actually, I like everyone else, I spent 8 to 10 hours a day in a classroom.
Have you seen that thing? I think it was Zuckerberg who said this, who was like, basically, if you look at human history, like as we've added productivity, there ends up just being more time for entertainment and creativity. And so what probably will happen is like, if you add a lot more productivity, yes, we will be more productive. People will do more stuff, but you'll actually have more time for these other things. And so,
I don't know.
Have you seen that?
I think it was, Zuck probably did say that. The first, I'm thinking of Bertrand Russell, who, old school English philosopher, who predicted that ultimately we'll all spend all of our time in leisure. However, and maybe that's true from the vantage point of like old aristocracy, I think the United States of America is like an anti-leisure society and culture. Like, America is the most productive nation on earth by almost every measure you care to come up with, despite all the challenges the country clearly has. And yet we consume, we put the least amount of time towards leisure activities. And so I think there's something societal and cultural where I feel like maybe, at least in this country, we're becoming increasingly more productive, but I don't see that prediction coming full circle and it actually turning into more leisure time. Instead, it seems to be greater pursuit of capitalism.
I think you're right.
I agree with that.
Wow, we could do a whole episode just on this. I have a million more questions. But
so interesting.
You know what we'll do? Sometime in the future, Rahul, you come back and we'll check in on this. We'll see where we are in the world.
Place some bets. Guess what? I don't think the USA is going to change.
Well, look, Rahul, thank you so much for being here. Awesome episode. Great to see you. Congratulations on the acquisition. So happy for you.
Thank you.
Where can people connect with you to follow your journey, learn more, all that good stuff?
Great. Well, I'm very active on Twitter or X. My username is my first name, my last name, RAHUL VOHRA. I'm, of course, also on LinkedIn, and you can email me back directly at rahul@superhuman.com.
Awesome. Good to see you, man. Take it easy.
You too. Take care. Bye.
We went down the philosophical road at the end there, which could have continued. You'll have to come back and tune in for the second episode with Rahul to do that.
Yeah, maybe we'll release some BTS footage.
There you go. But yeah, I love the entire approach, like thinking about the journey of him being in the back of an Uber, realizing that what Uber really did for him was give him time back to do other things. And like, how could you do that with something at work? And that was email. And it was also, I didn't want to go distract while he was talking about this, but the onboarding was like so cool. He referenced it in the interview, but the way they used to onboard every single person was you'd have to book a time. Someone would get on there with you. They would see your email and like how it works. They would walk you through their software product. They'd explain to you all the keyboard shortcuts, the methodology, all this stuff. And once you had learned how to do it, then they would let you set you free.
To me, that there is like nothing greater. Like part of the remarkability factor, right? Like,
absolutely.
That's something that we are remarking on and talking about right now. And
it was different than any other product I signed up for at that period of time. And then that just showed up in more ways over time. So yes, I mean, I love this episode, love this interview. I feel like it's like for somebody who's trying to build something, trying to figure out how can we stand out? How can we get progress to really happen? I hope this can be an episode that people can come back to and think, hey, there is a way to do it.
100%.
I love this episode with Rahul. Super fun to put it together. So glad he was able to come on and that we caught him right after his massive sale to Grammarly. And I'm super excited to see what they do next. So we'll be watching. And until our next episode, you'll be watching. You'll be watching this. You'll be watching shorts. We'll be seeing you on LinkedIn. We'll be seeing you on YouTube. So don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you consume the content. I mean, by the content, I mean talking to that. All right. We'll take it easy, everyone. See ya. Bye.